Hello, everyone, and welcome to the May 24th Product Analytics Group Sync. We'll start off by going through the build board and then go through the rest of the agenda items, unless people want to switch things around. Cool. Then give me a second to just reorganize a couple windows, make sure this is readable. All right. I'll try something different. Let's make it a little cleaner. General availability launch plan that's blocked. We can clean a couple of feature flags, some error handling. Just trying to quickly go through the open issues. The performance audit, which probably needs refinement, but I'll follow up on that. Okay, cool. Problem validation. Rob, you have the first issue with fill. Anything to update on here?
Yes, I have ran through potential solutions. I've had some great feedback from the team. So thank you everyone for commenting on that. I need to do a deeper analysis to how competitors are handling this approach, to see how the proposed solutions line up against that. It's on my high up on my to-do list to get this dealt with and sorted in this milestone. So we have a plan of action.
Got it. Cool. I think this issue is the table of permission checks, which I think we spotted. This isn't specific to roles, but I think we've already cleared this up with the different providers. So I'm going to go ahead and close this issue unless someone feels differently. It's just like what you're supposed to be able to see depending on what the state of your cluster connection is for a given project. Cool. And Lindsay's not here to talk about competitive analysis. We continue to add to that. I think I have something I can add there regarding a different competitor. So, all right, design issues. I don't believe Graham's on the call, so I'm just going to quickly go through these issues unless someone has anything they'd like to call out.
I'll just mention that I dropped a comment in that second issue about enabling custom dashboard creation. That I think we can already start work on this because the issue is like 3 points. The first being just enabling the setting, and the second is notifying the users that they can like edit it in the settings. So my suggestion is, if possible, let's just split this out into 2 separate issues so that us enabling this by default isn't blocked by design, because it doesn't feel like that link to the setting is absolutely needed right now.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, let's separate it out since it looks like Ram's already given us a weight for the design part of it. So it sounds good to me.
Okay, I'll go
are
ahead.
You going to take action on that, or?
Yeah, feel free to assign me as the DRI for this, and I'll be sure to make a separate issue.
Perfect. Cool. Solution validation. This is ongoing with far as evaluating data architectures. A lot of next steps actually have to be done following the initial discovery or completion of that last week. So take an action item on that. And then, Sarabi, you have an issue here for session counts decreasing over time. Is there anything you can discuss here?
I have not made much progress over this as I got distracted with funnel issues. So the status remains the same as previous. When I ran the explain queries, I got to know that the where clause is running afterwards. So we just need to find a way to trick Cube into running the where clause first. But I have not spent much time over this after that finding.
Got it. Cool. This is an open item to remove duplicate events. It's still up for someone to take. I had some suggestions on how you could clean up that data, but I think if this goes for another milestone, we might want to just kick this out since it's been sorted, but I need to update this actually. So I don't know if that actually saved this. I need time. Updating documentation. I don't think Lorena's on the call. Due date discrepancies. It's an ongoing discussion about previous dates, which has been fixed. Future dates is, I think, a hallucination from Duo side. So we've got a couple of issues as far as the visualization designer filter overhaul. They're blocked, so I don't know if there's anything we need to call out here.
No,
It's not on
they're
the call.
blocked by the foundational work that we have. So we're first going to add
Yep.
that faulted search, and then we're going to add the
Mhm.
tokens on top of that. So yeah, once the foundation's in, these will become unblocked.
Makes sense. All right, we can skip over the planning issue. Funnel visualizations. I know there's a lot of work been going around this. Halil, do you want to speak to this?
Yeah, I think there is like a couple of issues that we are working on. One of them was about date filter, which is under maintainer review, and there is another issue that Surabi is working on now, and those two I think are the last ones. Yeah.
Got it. Cool. And then Elwin has a couple of blocked issues about configuring the project level settings within the onboarding flow, which is blocked by GraphQL, and the permissions changes required. Okay, so that's already being worked on Elwin's part. Or no, that's also blocked. By what? Oh, the permissions change. Is that a circular? Never mind, it's fine. Cool, and that's in review. All right. Looking for ready for development. Don't know if there's anything we want to cover here since they're just ready to pick up. Yeah, so I'm just gonna skip over that. Let's go to in dev. Max, you have the first two.
Cut me off if my internet makes me sound like a frog, but we'll do our best. Number one is blocked. That will be the flags that we enable when we're ready to turn on billing. Billing is currently undergoing user acceptance testing with the finance and I want to say enterprise apps teams. I'm blocked on my work specifically. I'd left it in dev because the product analytics billing override flag is the one we're turning on for individual internal customers who want to use it. So it's kind of doing something, but not a lot. Once UAT is passed with the finance team, then presumably we're good to go once Lindsay's happy that we go. But at the moment, that's the only sort of corporate thing stopping us from making further progress.
Yeah, I wonder if I guess we could turn this on even prior to the launch of the managed GA. So I guess we don't have to link the two together in terms of timing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because everyone else is already, well, that's actually not true because then that means it turns off the beta for anyone that would want to try it, right?
Yeah, that's the problem.
Okay. So open question then for us to figure out, and I can chat with Lindsay about that as well.
Okay. I'm blocked on my user acceptance testing because stuff wasn't syncing correctly from Salesforce to Zora, but I can't do anything about that. I've let them know, so we'll see what comes out of that, but I'll chase it up today. Second issue is audit events. First of which is in maintainer review, the second of which is in dev and will be done today.
Awesome. Cool. So Robbie, anything you want to call out here with removing instances of experimental features enabled?
Yeah, I have generated an MR for this, but there were some flaky tests, so I was just figuring out if it's related to the changes, but turns out those are only flaky. So I would maybe find a way to fix those tests or put it to review for now. So it's still in dev. I'll figure out if I have to put it in review tomorrow.
Okay. I don't know if that's potentially something Yevgen can help with, or is it just random flaky tests related to product analytics, or just in general?
Yeah, it's related to product analytics. That's why I was trying to figure out if we can fix those tests for.
Okay.
Is it on like GitLab repo?
Yes.
Okay. Like we don't run any tests I added there, but yeah, I can have a look. Maybe you can ping me and I can have a look, but I'm not sure if I'm aware of what are those tests. But I can dig into it.
That will be good. Thank you.
Cool. All right. I think this issue went back into in dev from in review, and Jan, just feel free to correct me or interrupt me. But I think we're still trying to figure out a MVC approach to figuring out how we can.
Yeah, so I just looked at the issue at the latest date. Alvin dropped a comment there saying that yesterday that the main fix is in place, which is the case.
Okay.
And that he's working on a follow-up. The MRE link to is closed, so I just linked to the actual MR. So it seems like we can actually mark this as closed, but I guess he's using the issue to also encapsulate the follow-up. So I'll let Alvin take this through the workflow as he sees
Okay,
fit.
so got it. So
yeah, the bug is fixed, but there's some follow-up work. Yeah, not sure how we want to treat that.
Okay. Maybe we can tell when if the bug is fixed, and there's some follow-up work to do, maybe we can put that into a follow-up issue.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
I'll submit that later. Cool. Visualization designer prompts about unsaved changes right after saving. Anything you want to call out here?
No, so this is a bug that I just investigated. I asked Lindsay for some feedback in terms of how we want to resolve this, because the visualization designer doesn't allow for editing. It's a bit of an edge case in terms of like how we would usually fix this may not be how we actually want to do it. So based on her feedback,
Sure.
I'll implement the appropriate fix.
Sounds good. All right. In review, Rob, you have funnels do not work with date range filters. Anything to call out here?
It's in maintainer review. Obviously, it was what's it called? Weekend in the US, Memorial Day weekend in the US. So I'm waiting on the maintainer. I'm assuming they'll be back today. So I'll either hear from them my time this afternoon, my time, or tomorrow. If not, I'll chase.
I don't know if you cut off there, or you muted. Okay. All right. Sounds good. We already looked at this issue. This is blocking a number of things with regards to being able to update the provider settings within the onboarding flow. So let's keep going on. Jan, you have something about improving descriptions for the dashboards?
Yeah, this is a short MR made from recommendations that Lorena made. It improves both optimize and product analytics descriptions, just like streamlines it. It's kind of stuck in the review at the moment. There's some back and forth between optimize members about how exactly this sentence should look. So I'll leave it to them. In terms of product analytics, I'm perfectly fine with what's been suggested.
Cool. I wonder if the discussions take a little bit longer. We maybe separate the two.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Sweet. Cool. We've got some preliminary work for project settings as well as the filter overhaul. Jan or anyone, I don't know if anyone can speak to this. All right. Finally, I was able to implement backup for product analytics for .com. For those that are unaware, we were trying to kind of do our own self-built and a little janky solution for extending backups to 7 days. But ClickHouse has actually rolled out the ability to define a retention window yourself and then make backups accordingly. So I've already enabled it for both production clusters. So we're in a good spot there. But yeah, finally got an issue done. Cool. That's the build board review. Quickly looking at the closed, we've got feedback collection on natural language querying, which is great. Code in the visualization codes listing is different than what's created from the visualization. Sounds like that's been corrected.
It just renders in it just renders in YAML instead of JSON.
Awesome.
Small but impactful change.
Awesome. I don't know. Is this complete? Looks like it's just been closed because it's been merged issues. Yeah. Halil dropped personally identifiable, or I think Sarabi, both you and Halil were working on this in terms of dropping personally identifiable information as far as processing bad events. Anything we want to call out here?
They merged it.
Yeah, I think we
Sorry,
just
what?
I couldn't hear. Sorry, Rafa.
Good.
Yeah. I was just saying that we just made a change in the analytics stack. It
Yep.
is not in the public repo, or it's not in dev kit. But yeah, Surabi was telling something. I think I couldn't hear it. So, yeah.
No, I just said that I saw your comments and you merged it for analytics type, so that's okay.
Cool. Awesome. I think I may have to go and just double check bad events to make sure that since it's been deployed, we need to purge those, I believe. I'll take an action item for that. Okay, funnel schema SQL remains unchanged when syncing funnels. I know we've been doing a lot of work around funnels. Is there anything we want to call out with that regarding the topic?
No, I think it was like a bug fix, and
Yep.
yeah, it's fixed now.
Okay. Cool. Then, unless there's anything else people want to call out for closed issues, we will move on to the rest of the agenda. Cool.
I would like to call out if
Yes.
I would like to call
Please.
out if I have written a final funnels query. If anyone finds any issue with that query, please let me know, because I'm trying to get a final working stage for funnels and make sure that we are getting the real funnel analysis data. So any help would be great.
Okay. So is it like in dev kit, or the GDK, it's in a working state, we would say, or are you like, is it ready to test
I
from
just
others?
I just got a ClickHouse query version of it. I'll make a cube version of it tomorrow so that we can actually test it. So it would be great when I create a cube query tomorrow. Anyway, like whatever test data that we can generate for funnels would be great.
Cool. Yeah. Feel free to ping the team on that when that's ready. All right. Then moving to the rest of the agenda, we have a link for the Q1 OKR retrospective. Rob, you had something about should the retrospective bot message the team about this issue. We don't do quarterly retrospectives typically, and that one's centered around OKRs, and that's kind of what the topic is around. We do have the ones for the milestones for Q1, but this is more about we've focused on delivering the GA. We had some clear OKRs for Q1. So is there anything we could have started doing, stopped doing, or continue doing as part of all of that? So this is a call to action to say if there's anything you'd like to call out in terms of the work we've been doing for the past quarter in line with our OKRs, then please chime in there. I can think of a few words of praise in terms of all of us getting to the GA and things like that. But yeah, feel free to chime in yourself. Cool. Unless anyone has anything they want to talk about for that issue, we can move on to prioritizing deliverables and also refining future ones. It's coming up a couple of times in terms of maybe there's lower priority issues that are ready to work on, but there are higher priority things like filtering or custom event property querying, or with Phil, what to do about that and how we want to try to manage the prioritization there, and how do you pick and choose. So this is an open question to the team in terms of how they think that would work best. I linked to Jan's merge requests where we said we were going to try to go through smaller issues and epics, but maybe it's a little bit clearer now whether or not the goal scope label would make sense. And there are other suggestions like Max.
Yeah, I don't know if my suggestions are good ones, but they're suggestions nonetheless. The idea of potentially having two boards where engineers work through stuff to build and stuff to refine. I think I agree with your point, Dennis, though, that keeping it as a single board would be ideal. Yeah, have you got anything else to add on that?
No, that's about it. I'd be keen to know how we can. I think there's two things, like how do we look at it, and then how do we actually organize the information. And so I would love to know if the build board doesn't satisfy that, if that's something that we can change. And then as we'll get down further, or to your next point, we do have a section to call this out in the milestone planning issue as well.
Yeah.
So
maybe we need to be just louder about that. Because I kind of knew that, kind of didn't at the same time. Like I knew it was there, but I don't often pick up stuff to refine from that list. So perhaps we just need to make it clearer. Maybe this is just a me problem. I don't know. To make it clearer that that's kind of part of the day-to-day work is, hey, there's that list there of stuff we need to refine. Pick up some of it and work through that.
Yeah. Rob, you have the next point. Or sorry, Max. You had the follow-up for the lists to be defined. All right, I guess that's to your point.
Yeah.
Like we need to be louder about calling that out. Yeah. All right, Rob, anything you want to call out?
Yeah, my general point is just thinking of trying to, how can we make it clearer? Here's a list of things we want to get done in this milestone. Like we want these refined this milestone. And priority labels is definitely one aspect of that. We used to, in compliance, we used to have a next up label, which was just a list of next up items that you take off the top of the pile. We could try adding a weight, someone figuring out roughly how hard is it going to be to refine this issue, because some things are refining how adding a link to a page or adding an audit event, and some things are much more complicated in scope, like pre-aggregations, for instance, is going to be a massive task to build a proof of concept and everything else. So thinking about the team and factoring this against deliverables, obviously next up's take away from how much we can deliver. So having that weight assigned would make it easier to allocate the right amount of time within a milestone to have this space to do the next up process. That means we wouldn't have as many deliverables in the pipeline to take people away from tackling these next up issues as a group.
Yeah, I'm curious about the utility of the next up label, because what we should be doing is just making sure that the issues that are in the milestone should be in the milestone. So my understanding is that if it's in problem, any workflow step, that means there's something that we should be doing about it. And so this is more about how do you balance the issues that are ready to be picked up or be worked on or reviewed versus the ones that need refinement, and how do you balance that prioritization, which is the word of the day, if anything. And Jan, you have something to talk about there in terms of priority labels.
Yeah, I mean, I was just asking some, I think, like kind of dumb questions just to try and figure out like what exactly is the problem.
No dumb questions. Yeah.
Well, yeah, if prioritization is an issue, then I feel like priority labels help. We've already been using them on like bugs and stuff, and I found it helpful in terms of like prioritizing my own day. And also specifically how this is different from the current workflow planning breakdown column, and actually all the columns in the milestone, because I kind of feel like if it's scheduled in the milestone, then the expectation is that there's at least one workflow movement in that milestone. Yes. So it seems to be like the problem is that that's not happening, question mark.
Yeah. So yeah, so I agree. If it's in, if we're looking at it, if it's in the build board, that means something should be done with it, right? So unless someone disagrees, let's go with that assumption.
I think I do disagree, because if it's in the build board, it should be built. Hence my suggestion of, like, not serious suggestion of a second board, like a build. For me, I guess from almost a purist point of view, the build board, nothing should be waiting for refinement. Those are the things that we're ready to build. The only alternative could be that if it's in solution validation, then or problem validation, then it should be being refined during that milestone. And by the very virtue of the fact that it wasn't ready for development at the start of the milestone, then we're assuming it might not be complete and built by the end of the milestone. Like, do we just assume that if something is ready for refinement, then refinement is what happens in that milestone? But then there are some examples where refinement and build does also happen in the same milestone.
So I don't know if it's in. So that sounds like almost like an issue with the naming of the board then, because what I'm trying to get at is like, is there a single source of truth where we can look at where everything we're going to work on the milestone is in this view. And I think the bottom line is that, and especially now that we've gotten to GA, and like there's going to be a balance of there are improvements that are in polished items that we know are clear and well defined that we can start to pick up. But then there are going to be future topics in terms of custom event property querying, funnels, sharing visualizations that aren't going to be as clear. So we have to balance that so that we're not just saying, hey, we're going to spend one milestone on shipping stuff and then another milestone on refining stuff. I think there's a balance to be struck where we're starting to continually build, clarity and a clear roadmap or backlog of items that we can start to work on.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I guess my question is like, if naming is an issue, then let's rename it to just the milestone board or whatever. Or if we do feel like the two should be distinct, then my question is like, is that going to be good for us in terms of like having yet another thing to check?
No, I don't think we should have a separate board. It's more a case of if I'm looking for something to do right now, for example, and there's stuff that's in solution validation, and I'm looking at that and it's like, okay, well, we've got sort of an idea of what we want, but let's validate it and come up with an implementation plan. I come up with an implementation plan for that issue. What do I do next? Do I say, hey, Lindsay, this is ready. It's got a reasonable weight. Based on the capacity, we could actually squeeze it into the current milestone, or do you want to take it back now and reprioritize it based on that? That's kind of the, I guess, quote unquote, agile thing to do, because once we've weighed it and given it a rough idea of difficulty, then it's up to the product to decide whether or not it's going to be prioritized right now or in the future.
Yeah, so if prioritization helps get people to look at it, but it's unclear on what the intention of doing, what you want done with it once you actually take a look at it, then that's why I bring it back to like, does the goal label help in that case? Where if something's in solution validation, is like, what's the point? Like, what are we trying to do in 17.1 for this issue? By the way, if that's not clear, then we need to that needs to be either well defined in the issue or the epic itself, or we need to use something else like a label. So like that's what I'm asking, like in terms of what does the team, what do you want?
At this point, I would vote for the goal label and apologize to Jan for being dismissive of it in the past, because I think I was wrong.
Yeah, I got the impression that the problem was not fully understood, but I am also slightly confused because based on the discussion we had on the goal label, it seems like the consensus was that we're gonna only schedule issues that are basically going to go from start to finish in one milestone. So make it as small as possible, where even if it needs to be designed, planned, everything, that everything can happen in a single milestone. And that the goal for everything scheduled is to get done. But maybe I misunderstood that. And please correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you misunderstood.
It's one way to go about it. Go ahead, Max.
Yeah, I think I misunderstood the problem well, and therefore the solution didn't make sense in my head. But now I've re-understood the problem. It sounds like a sensible idea. And also it means that if the goal is to refine it in a milestone, and it turns out that once we've refined it, it's really, really easy and we could just do it in an hour, then it's up to a product to say, actually, we might change the goal this milestone to build and complete because it's really easy and we can get a lot of value out of it for not too much work.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine either way. If it helps drive clarity, I'm not going to oppose it. The issue should be scoped as well as possible. But if that's not the case, or we can't do that, or if we need to say, hey, everything in this this milestone board shouldn't be in here unless it's very clear if the solution validation what the intent is. That means if we're creating issues just to say refine this, then let's do that. But I'm flexible. I didn't oppose the idea personally.
Should we? Sorry, go ahead, Rob.
I was only going to say that I like the idea of goal. I can't see like custom events as a massive thing. We can't break it down until we understand the problem into smaller iterable issues that we can then milestone out. So there is that big chunk at the beginning. So having that goal, this milestone, we want to have it refined to the point where we can do that. Having that goal label would be helpful. because it's still then it's still on the board, so we're still tracking its progress, and it's not getting lost in the ether in the before it gets to the point where it's small enough to fit into one milestone end to end. I think listening to all of everyone's conversation topic, everyone talking, it sounds like the issue here is maybe we're focusing too much on the workflow label and not enough on the priority label. And maybe we should change our build board to just have priority 1, 2, 3, 4. And then whoever's working on that issue can say, you know, you can see the workflow label on the build board, but you can then say, I'm working on this right now, priority 1 issue, we're going to make it in this milestone, it's in review, move on to the next. And that way it means that engineers are always going to priority 1 column. Whether that's a solution validation issue that needs to get refined for the next milestone, or if that's a development issue that needs to be picked up, everyone focuses on priority 1 before even going to priority 2, etc., etc. And that way, at the very least, we should at least have an assignee for every single issue in priority 1 and meet our prioritization goals for the milestone.
Yeah, I mean, it's depends on what we want by default, right? You can use the board as it is and filter by priority. So what does the team think? What do we want to try?
I also noticed that like in terms of priority label, I think we are not using it as efficiently because, like, for example, with the current milestone, if I use priority 1, there is only like one issue which is not delivered. So a lot of the items don't have the priority label. So even if we add the goal,
That might be
I would
because
say
we're okay. Go ahead.
sorry. Yeah, I think that like even if we have the goal label, we should, I think, have in addition to priority label. I guess it would be good to have priority in all the items so that we can easily decide which one to pick up.
Sure. And so as part of the decision, we can make it a point where, like, as milestone planning, we make sure that issues that are a milestone have a priority label. I don't know if I follow the argument of, like, I looked at priority 1 and there's only one. That might just mean we all looked and started working on the priority ones, which we should be doing. So I don't know if that's a strong case of, like, there's only one, so are we using it? Maybe if we looked at issues in the milestone that don't have a priority label, that's something I think that would help support, like, we should use this more. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, that's how it should work. If you hopefully, in an ideal scenario, if we're halfway through the milestone, priority 1 should be low to completed, and we've already started focusing on P2s and P3s. Cool. Any other comments, thoughts on this? Do we want to use priority columns then? Or do you want to filter the existing board? Sorry, Jan.
I was just about to say that I feel like whatever we do in terms of solution, we should establish a clear framework for how it gets applied. So if we go with goal labels, then I think we should be clear about, is it on every milestone issue or is it just on certain issues, so that there's like consistency? Because similar to priority labels, I think it's only as good as how well it's applied. If it's only going to be on like 1 or 2 issues, then we kind of lose the benefit of that. So my suggestion is basically, like, as a follow-up, once we've picked whatever we're going to do, that we kind of define how we want to do that, and then we can make it a group page MR or something, and just say, okay, this is how we work.
I agree. We should document it and really try to practice it for future milestones. Any other thoughts on that?
No, I agree. Does someone want to take after this an update to the our handbook page to define what it is we're actually going to do from today?
Are we good with the decisions here that I've called out in the agenda? I'm on the fence about priority labels. I think I like the representation of here's how things are moving from start to finish. I do think you can also filter by priority in the board itself. If you're curious, like you should be,
Should be
to
that
me, there should be a mindful, or like there should be intent of like, I'm going to check the priority ones because that's what we need to look at first. And then you work your way down.
Yeah, I would prefer just to do points 1 and 2, at least initially.
Okay, so why don't we start there? Unless we feel differently. Anyone feels differently, please chime in.
I'm fine with points 1 and 2. I do think priority labels shifts the focus to the focus we're actually looking at. I feel like the flow is useful for yourself, Dennis, for instance, to monitor how something's progressing over time for a milestone. But if we're thinking there's a balance between getting ICs to, and having ICs complete the priority tasks and then managing that process. So I don't know. I'm happy to leave it as is for now. We've noting in this issue that we should be filtering by priority 1 at the beginning of the milestone. Then when that's empty, moving on to priority 2, priority 3, etc., and maintaining that filter ourselves.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you can build your own board as well. So if you want to try that and you think that helps, please feel free to. I just want to make sure we're very intentional about what we focus on as a team and what we look at as a team, rather, to see how things are moving along. And if maybe we'll feel that the priority board is useful. But yeah. But it sounds like we have consensus on the first 2 points. So as far as next steps, sorry.
Yeah, do you want
to
to
reopen his recently closed MR and revise that? Sorry, Max.
I was going to say exactly the same thing, but I've got horrible latency, so it looks like I'm talking over you.
Yeah, no worries. We got there. Yeah, sounds good. Cool. Then Rob, you have the next point.
Yeah, just something I wanted to announce. Thank you, Jan, for actually running for it end to end as a first time, never done this before. User, I appreciate it. I'll share this more broadly with this section, but I thought I'd give you guys an early peek. I'm documenting how to use your GTK to generate organic analytics events while you're doing your day-to-day work. So as you're doing MR reviews in your GTK, working through your day-to-day tasks within your GTK, it will generate and send product analytics events to whatever project you define. I've set up a GTK tracking project within my local system, which just gives you some generic organic events rather than having to try and push dummy events through yourself, and just leaves it running in the background so you don't have to panic or worry about it. So feel free to take a look. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask, or if anything in the documentation that I'm currently writing is unclear, feel free to ask. I'm also happy to have a sync conversation and record it for others as well, if needed. You're also free
I think
to
you're
not do it
muting
this way.
yourself a little bit before you finish talking, just FYI.
No, sorry, bad joke. Yeah. What was I going to say to the end of this? Yeah, not a requirement, just I found it super easy having this set up. And it's all thanks to the great work that analytics instrumentation has done in setting up product analytics, analytical events generation stuff within GitLab.
Yeah, that sounds useful as well in terms of just being able to generate organic events. I would also say too, it's orange data. So everyone that does have access or does want access to ClickHouse Cloud, you should feel free to be able to pull however much data you need in order to put something in realistic into your GTK, particularly if you're testing funnels or custom event property querying. There might be some interesting cases there, since we have a pretty diverse data set there. So, but yeah, anything we can do to make the development experience more realistic, especially, will be very important, other than, we fired one event because we refreshed the page or sent it manually. So yeah. Awesome. thanks for sharing, and thanks Jan for testing that out. Cool. I think since we haven't covered confidential stuff, this recording can go public. OKR updates, I'll skip for now. We can check in on them perhaps next time. So we've reached the end of the agenda. Any final topics, questions, concerns that anyone wants to talk about? I have one. How is the shift to an hour-long group sync? Do we like it? Do we feel like we have more time for discussions? Is it not useful? How are we feeling?
Much better. We're not rushed.
Yeah, I agree. It used to be a bit of a dash to finish up the billboard review quick enough to get to the agenda. Now it can actually take our time.
Awesome. Good to hear. I definitely like it because, yeah, I mean, I still talk fast, but I'm not talking as fast, I feel like. So, cool. Then we'll keep it as such. And as always, if we feel we need to schedule something, we are able to, if the biweekly cadence doesn't make sense, but seems like things are going well. All right. Then if there's nothing else we want to talk, then 17 minutes back, 17 minutes back. And hopes everyone has a good rest of their Tuesday, rest of the week, and take care.